Well, now that the G20 summit in China is over, attention shifts to implementation and agreements signed. Nigeria is not a member of the group, but it is hoping at least some of the decisions made at the summit will boost its struggling economy. CCTV's Deji Badmus reports now from Lagos.
As much as Nigerians would like to see the G20 having a positive impact on the economy, many people here don't expect much to change. Nigeria is neither a member of the group of 20, nor was it invited to attend the summit. Nonetheless, locals are pleased with Chinese President Xi Jinping's call for G20 members to forge closer relations with Africa, as well as his pledge that China will continue to support the continent's industrialization drive. Now, if there's a time Nigeria needs help, and urgently too, it's now. The economy is in a recession. Youth unemployment is a major concern, and infrastructure remains a headache. So any benefits coming out of the summit will be welcomed with open arms. However, it's unlikely any impact will be felt in the short term. Deji Badmo, CCTV, Lagos, Nigeria.
Let's get you more on that story now, and I'm joined live in our Nairobi studios by Armando Morales. He's Kenya's representative of the International Monetary Fund here in Nairobi. Welcome to Africa Live. Now, Armando, what's your take on the just concluded G20 summit, and particularly implications and repercussions when it comes to Africa?
Let me say, to give some context, that the G20 summit has a relatively short history. The first one took place in Washington, D.C. in 2008, and since then it has been dominated by developments related to the crisis. So I think now the focus is shifting, and I think one of the merits of this summit is that it's shifting more closely to the main goal of this summit, which is focusing on growth with an emphasis on job creation and trade opportunities. And I think in that sense the agenda is moving closer to the interests of African countries. So you have issues like innovation, inclusion, the integration of macroeconomic and structural policies, environmental protection, all of which are very important for the agenda in Africa for many reasons.
So that focus now is moving closer to the issues that are at the heart of African economies. And if you look at African economies over the last 10 years, though, it has some of the fastest growing economies in the world. What sort of support, though, do you see countries like Kenya and other countries like Nigeria that is economically struggling at the moment? What kind of support would they be getting from the G20 members?
African countries have been doing very well recently because of sound macroeconomic policies that have been supportive of higher investment, including in infrastructure. But recently, because some commodity prices are falling and some countries have now less access to financial opportunities, then they are struggling to balance their external and fiscal positions. So for these countries, they need support in terms of additional investment and financial flows. First, they need to actually implement credible policies that facilitates the dialogue with the global community. And this is one of the forums where this dialogue is taking place. And then going back to the G20, there are issues like the industrialization agenda, sustainable development, that are going to be important to take a closer look at them in order to leverage goodwill, if you wish, from global community to support domestic policies to, in some cases, to recover from the difficult times as in Nigeria, and in other cases to move to a different plateau in terms of economic development, like in Kenya.
China particularly, though, has been very instrumental in pushing that industrialization agenda for Africa. But in the long term, though, what is the most significant decision or decisions coming out of the G20 that will have an impact for Africa in the long term?
I think I can identify three main areas. There are a number of documents that were discussed and agreed upon among G20 members. One of them is the industrialization initiative. The other is the action plan for implementing the sustainable development agenda. There are principles for digital financial inclusion that are very relevant for this part of the world, countries in this part of the world. Now the idea is to move and look at the details, and the countries can leverage on these initiatives to discuss these policies and to get support from global partners in different terms. Number two, it's interesting to see that for the first time the G20 saw the need to raise a warning about protectionist policies because of what is happening in the UK in the case of Brexit, or in the US with the political opposition to the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. And by contrast, you saw that African countries were very active in the WTO meeting in Nairobi, especially in what comes to access to agricultural products in international markets. So I think Africa can showcase that it's a serious partner when it comes to open trade, and that should facilitate the expansion of international markets for their products. Number three, one issue that was also discussed by the G20 members was a concern about the refugee crisis. And that debate is taking place at a time when Africa is moving to benefit, hopefully, from a demographic dividend. That is a good opportunity for moving to faster growth if it's accompanied by job creation. So I think given the concerns in the international community about the potential problems in the job opportunities don't come up at the same speed as new number of people come to the labor force, that would facilitate the dialogue between African countries and global partners to find common solutions to this problem and to support initiatives that favor job creation in the long term.
Right, Armando Morales, Kenya's resident IMF representative, thank you for your insight.